Alrighty, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Tyler Creates YouTube channel. My name is Tyler, and I hope you all are having a blessed day. I do want to say I already filmed this video once, and I did not like the way it turned out, so I'm redoing it. Today we're going to be talking about the book of Job and the story of Job. We're going to be doing the whole thing, so it's going to be a little bit of a longer video, but I'm going to try to cut down on the time a little bit. And just try to be more, I didn't feel like in the video I recorded just a little bit ago, I didn't feel like I was able to get the point across. It was kind of cold outside, so I'm sitting in my truck again. I figure I guess I could be in my camper, but I'll just be in my truck and talking here to y'all. So before I start on this video, I do want to share, and I am no way affiliated with any of these people. I don't know them at all, really, or have any affiliation with them, but I wanted to give a shout out and a recommendation for y'all to go listen to. I'll have it linked down in the description. A podcast by Peter John Courson. Some of you may know the name John Courson. I would consider him a pretty famous preacher. A lot of people do know of John Courson, especially in the Calvary circle. But Peter John Courson was his son, and Peter John Courson, he died a couple years ago, but he had a radio program that I used to listen to as a younger teenager through my old vintage radio in my bedroom. He would come on the radio on K-Apple, and he would have this show called Rogue Grace, and he would just talk about Jesus. And Peter John, the Lord Jesus changed my life through the teachings of Peter John and Rogue Grace. I've listened to all of them. I've forgotten many of them. The reason I bring this up is I recently went on his website and have started listening to them again all the way back from 2016. And I just am reminded of how much of a blessing the Coursons have been. Of course, John Courson, I've been raised going to his church. I went to their church and listened to many of John's teachings. The Coursons have been a huge blessing. Regardless of whatever goes on, I don't really care about any of that. They have proclaimed Jesus and the glory of God, and I'm very thankful. And if by chance one of the Coursons watches this, I really am thankful for you all. You all have been a very huge blessing to me, and I can't wait to see Peter John in heaven. That is going to be awesome. I cannot wait to talk with him and thank him for sharing the love of Jesus through Rogue Grace. So I'll have a link in the description. Again, there's no affiliation between me and the Coursons at all, or Rogue Grace, or K-Apple, any of that. I am just a country boy who was born and raised in Southern Oregon and raised on the Coursons' teachings and kind of the Calvary teachings. So I am very blessed by them as my brothers and sisters in Christ. So there'll be a link down in the description again for Peter John Courson's podcast. You can go listen to him. I think that his teachings need to get out there. I think they're really good teachings. But without further ado, we're going to get into the book of Job. We're going to be starting in Job 1. I'm just going to kind of run through this and just kind of talk about the book of Job and the overarching story and how it applies in our lives today, because I think it's very important. And it is... The overarching story is to never give up and to always trust Jesus. I think that's very important. If I shiver, I'm cold in here. I don't want to have my truck running because it's kind of loud. But, yeah. So we're going to get into it. I'm just going to kind of talk about Job. I'm going to read from Job. I'm reading out of the English Standard Version. And so I just want this story to remind you all to never give up no matter the circumstances. And to always trust Jesus, and that God is faithful no matter what, and then we have no clue what's going on. But we're going to start in Job 1. Job's character and wealth. There was a man in the land of Uz whose name was Job, and this man was blameless and upright, one who feared God and turned away from evil. There were born to him 7 sons and 3 daughters. He possessed 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, and 500 female donkeys, and very many servants, so that this man was the greatest of all the people of the East. What is that? I keep thinking I'm seeing something. So you can imagine here, we're just going to pause real quick. I mean, this guy is very wealthy. You would know his name. I'll just put it that way. I mean, he was very, 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 very wealthy. He would be... In today's society, he would probably be a multi-millionaire. He'd probably have tens of millions, maybe even in the hundreds of millions of dollars. I mean, 7,000 sheep is a lot of sheep. That's crazy. So, I got water mustache, or milk mustache. So I just want to preface that. I kind of want to lay down the groundwork here of like this story. You can imagine that Job is beyond famous and beyond well known. Like, you would know the name of Job in your towns, in other towns. It would be kind of like he's just a famous person. You would definitely know his land. I mean, you got to have a lot of land. Do you know how much land you'd have to have for 7,000 sheep? If you're a farmer, it would be entire valleys, like legitimately entire valleys. People think like, oh, farm, like it would be like go to Montana and find a like 5,000 acre farm, and that's like what you would need for like, I don't even know if that would be enough for 7,000 sheep. Anyways, what was that? I keep thinking I'm seeing stuff. There was a skunk around here somewhere. Chapter 4 says, his sons used to go and hold a feast in the house of each one on his day, and they would send and invite their 3 sisters and eat and drink with them. And when the days of the feast had run their course, Job would send and consecrate them. And he would rise early in the morning and offer burnt offerings according to the number of them all. For Job said, it may be that my children have sinned and cursed God in their hearts. Thus Job did continually. So you can imagine Job's children are, I would say they're probably not saved. I don't know, but they lead a sinful lifestyle. We can assume that by what he's saying here. So you kind of get the framework of who Job is, pardon me, and kind of like just kind of the character of Job and who he is. I do actually want to touch on Job 1, verse 1. There was a man in the land of Uz whose name was Job. This man was blameless and upright, one who feared God and turned away from evil. So this guy, not only is he super famous for his wealth and his possessions, but he's also a righteous, on fire, truthful, holy man of the Lord. I mean, this guy would be very well known, very well respected. Like, you'd hear the name of Job and you'd be like, oh yeah, that dude is righteous before the God of Israel. Like, he would be this name that people would know. Satan allowed to tempt Job. Job 1:6. Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came among them. The Lord said to Satan, from where have you come? And Satan answered the Lord and said, from going to and fro on the earth, and from walking up and down on it. And the Lord said to Satan, have you considered my servant Job, that there is none like him on the earth, a blameless and upright man who fears God and turns away from evil? Then Satan answered the Lord and said, does Job fear God for no reason? Have you not put a hedge around him and his house and all that he has on every side? You have blessed the work of his hands, and his possessions you have increased in the land. But stretch out your hand and touch him, and touch all that he has, and he will curse you to your face. So this is God. This is Satan talking to God. And the Lord said to Satan, behold, all that he has is in your hand. Only against him do not stretch out your hand. So Satan went out from the presence of the Lord. So he's basically saying, don't mess with Job specifically, and like, don't kill him. Job 1:13 says, now there was a day when his sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in their oldest brother's house. And there came a messenger to Job and said, the oxen were plowing and the donkeys feeding beside them. And the Sabians, I'm assuming Sabians, I don't think it's Sabians, it might be, fell upon them and took them and struck down the servants with the edge of the sword. And I alone have escaped to tell you. And you see calamity starting to strike. While he was yet speaking, there came another and said, the fire of God fell from heaven and burned up the sheep and the servants and consumed them. And I alone have escaped to tell you. While he was yet speaking, there came another and said, the Chaldeans formed 3 groups and made a raid on the camels and took them and struck down the servants with the edge of the sword. And I alone have escaped to tell you. While he was yet speaking, there came another and said, your sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in their oldest brother's house. And behold, a great wind came across the wilderness and struck the 4 corners of the house, and it fell upon the young people, and they are dead, and I alone have escaped to tell you. Wow. So you can imagine in a matter of like 30 minutes, Job's entire life is gone. While they were yet speaking. So that means Job's like sitting in his room, his out in the outside his house, wherever, and like This servant comes running up and is like, God just burned up 7,000 sheep and killed a whole bunch of us, and I'm the only one left. Oh, what? There's another servant coming? That servant comes up, hey, all your children are dead. I'm the only one that's alive. A wind came and blew the house down. These would all be things that you'd be like, acts of God. Of course, Satan was doing it because God is allowing Satan to do it. But you can imagine the, shock. I was saying in the video that didn't get uploaded, the previous video, I was thinking, by the grace of God, Job didn't have a heart attack. Any normal man, like if I heard all those things happen, and especially you get a timeline because it says while they were yet speaking, so the servant's speaking and the other servants come in and say these things, so it probably happens in like 10 to 15 minutes. I'd literally have a heart attack and die. By God's grace, Job did not have a heart attack and die. How would you not? Like, what? Like, what? I can't even. What? It's hardcore, for real hardcore. And I want you to remember something. A lot of people, the stories of the Bible. This stuff really happened. Job was a real man. This was all real stuff. It really happened if you believe the Bible and believe Jesus, of course. If you don't, well, that's up to you. But this stuff really did happen, which is crazy. I gotta change my battery real quick. Anyways, so you can imagine that this would be quite shocking to Job. Job 1:20 says, Then Job arose and tore his robe and shaved his head and fell on the ground and worshipped. And he said, Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I shall return. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. And in all this, Job did not sin or charge God with wrong. I don't know how Job, I need to be like Job. Most of the time in our lives, we have a little hiccup. I mean a little hiccup. And we are cursing God up and down the wall and just, why are you doing this? You. Job didn't curse God. He said, you know what? Maybe now's my time. God gave and God's taken it away. It is what it is. I still trust God, basically. I mean, naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked shall I return. The Lord gave, and the Lord's taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. I need to be more like that. And I say all these things, me, you, we. That's wow. I mean to tell you. Seeing is what I just read. I mean, recount what I just was talking about, what we just read, all the stuff that just happened. And God is saying, you know what? Or Job, pardon me, is saying, you know what? Bless God. God knows what he's doing. In chapter 2, it says Satan attacks Job's health. So it says, again, there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them to present himself before the Lord. And the Lord said to Satan, For where have you come? And Satan answered the Lord and said, From going to and fro on the earth, and from walking up and down on it. And the Lord said to Satan, Have you considered my servant Job, that there is none like him on the earth, a blameless and upright man, who fears God and turns away from evil? He still holds fast to his integrity, although you enticed me against him to destroy him without reason. Then Satan answered the Lord and said, Skin for skin. All that a man has he will give for his life. But stretch out your hand and touch his bone and his flesh, and he will curse you to your face. And the Lord said to Satan, Behold, he is in your hand, only spare his life. So Satan went out from the presence of the Lord and struck Job with loathsome sores from the sole of his foot to the crown of his head. And he took a piece of broken pottery with which to scrape himself while he sat in the ashes. So you're seeing the visual picture being set up of Job, what has happened. So you have the first cliff that Job fell off of, figuratively, and then you have the second cliff. Which is, I mean, so Job 2:9. Then his wife said to him, Do you still hold fast your integrity? Curse God and die. But he said to her, You speak as one of the foolish women would speak. Shall we receive good from God, and shall we not receive evil? In all this, Job did not sin with his lips, which is amazing. He basically was saying to her, God can do what he wants. If he gives me good, who's to say he's not gonna? He can remove whatever he wants. God can do whatever he wants. He's perfect. He's God. Suck it up, buttercup. I'm going to skip through a whole bunch of this now, but Job's 3 friends come into the scene, and these 3 friends basically accuse Job of sinning and accuse him, basically saying that Job has to have done something wrong. There's a lot of back and forth. You'd have to read the nitty gritty. There's like a lot that goes on between them, a whole bunch of bantering back and forth. But it says, now Job's 3 friends heard of all this evil that had come upon him. They came each from his own place: Eliphaz the Temanite, Bildad the Shuhite, and Zophar the Naamathite. They made an appointment to come together to show him sympathy and comfort him. And when they saw him from a distance, they did not recognize him. And they raised their voices and wept, and they tore their robes and sprinkled dust on their heads towards heaven. And they sat with him on the ground 7 days and 7 nights, and no one spoke a word to him, for they saw that his suffering was very great. So we have a timeline here: 7 days and 7 nights not speaking, which is a long time. These friends, I say that with air quotes because they are friends, but as we read later here in a little bit, they stepped out of line. They did not do what they should have said. And so we're going to skip through a whole bunch of this. Job 3 through 9, Job laments his birth. Eliphaz speaks to innocent prosper. So they kind of start getting into this bickering back and forth. Job's friends are like, you had to do something wrong. You're not perfect. There's something. God is not going to judge you because just because. There's more in depth to it, but I would be here for a very long time explaining it to y'all. But just get the gist that there is a harsh contradiction between Job and his 3 friends. They are attacking Job kind of hardcore when Job's already like down and out. 10, a plea. Job continues, a plea to God. I don't think I'm gonna read through this. Well, I could. I'll read through it here real quick. The reason I chose this one is because in all this stuff, he's making a plea to God. He's calling out to the Lord, and it says, starting in verse 1, Job 10, I loathe my life. I will give free utterance to my complaint. I will speak in the bitterness of my soul. I will say to God, do not condemn me. Let me know why you contend against me. Does it seem good to you to oppress, to desire the work of your hands, to despise the work of your hands, and favor the designs of the wicked? Have you eyes of flesh? Do you see as man sees? Are your days as the days of man, or your years as a man's years? That you seek out my iniquity and search for my sin, although you know that I am not guilty, and there is none to deliver out of your hand? Your hands fashioned and made me, and now you have destroyed me altogether. Remember that you have made me like clay, and you will return me to the dust. Did you not pour me out like milk and curdle me like cheese? You clothed me with skin and flesh and knit me together with bones and sinews. You've granted me life and steadfast love, and your care has preserved my spirit. Yet these things you hid in your heart. I know that this was your purpose. If I sin, you watch me and do not acquit me of my iniquity. If I am guilty, woe to me. If I am in the right, I cannot lift up my head, for I am filled with disgrace, and look on my affliction. And were my head lifted up, you would hunt me like a lion, and again work wonders against me. You renew your witness against me and increase your vexation towards me. You bring fresh troops against me. Why did you bring me out of the womb? Would that I have died before an eye had seen me, and were as I had not been, carried from the womb to the grave. Are not my days few? Then cease and leave me alone, that I may find a little cheer before I go, and I shall not return to the land of darkness and deep shadow, to the land of gloom and thick darkness, like deep shadow without any order, where light is as thick darkness. So you can see here, Job is like calling out to the Lord. He's like, basically, what are you doing? Like, why? You fashioned me, you made me, and now I am incurring your judgment. You are hot on my heels. He's saying, what is going on? Which I think it's really important to remember that it's okay to ask God questions from a place of genuine wonder. I was thinking about this, and it's very important that there are 2 different questionings of God. There's the sinful questioning of the Lord, and then there's the questioning that's genuine and relationship building. The questioning that's sinful is what Satan asked Adam and Eve. Did God really say that if you eat of this tree? That questioning leaded to doubt. It leaded to doubting God. Whereas this questioning is a genuine questioning of, what are you doing? I'm genuinely wondering, what is your purpose in this, Lord? You've made me, you know me, and yet you're hunting me down and destroying me. And he's obviously kind of being self-pity, which I'd probably be self-pity too if I was in his position. I'd be definitely, that would not be very fun. Just remember that you can talk to God and you don't need a filter. God doesn't need your filter. He doesn't need you to control your speech in terms of like, oh, I can't say that, or I should say this. Now, you shouldn't obviously get all heated and be swearing to God and stuff like that, but I mean, Job's making his complaint. He's asking God what's going on. Simply, he's saying, it's simple. God does not need you to filter yourself. A real relationship, what kind of relationship would you have if God needed you to filter your speech towards him? You see what I'm saying? That would make no sense. It wouldn't be a very good relationship, would it? The Lord can handle you. He knows. He knows everything about us. He knows what you're going to say. So why not say it and genuinely ask? And I know I struggle with that. It's like, well, God already knows what I'm going to say, or there's no point in even talking to God because it's not going to change anything. And that is a lie from Satan, let me tell you. That is the absolute lie. You talk to Jesus. There is nothing better in my life that I have done than build a relationship talking with God. Like, talk with him. Job is talking with God. Everyone in the Bible talks with God. Talk. Engage. Pray. Like, build relationship with Jesus. So, Zophar speaks in Job 11, you deserve worse. Job replies, the Lord has done this, which I find it interesting. Job obviously knows that God has allowed something to happen. I mean, it's pretty radical what happens. So Job continues, still I will hope in God. I think that's very, very, very powerful. Job 13:15, though he slay me, I will hope in him, yet I will argue my ways to his face. Though he slay me, I will hope in him. So again, you have this statement that Job is still trusting in God and is faithful. He's still in the faith, and trust comes from God. This is not Job's self-righteousness. This is God helping Job to be long-suffering, God helping Job to stay steadfast. Without Jesus, we can't do any of this. I mean, it's what I was saying earlier. Without God, Job would have had a heart attack. Any man would have a heart attack hearing that. How would you? Your heart would stop. Mine would. I would for sure have a heart attack. Thinking about it more, if I heard all that my whole family had died and like everything would, how would you not? How would you not have a heart attack from that? Especially in like a 10-minute period. I'd pass out. Die. But yeah. Job continues in Job 13, still I will hope in God. It's very interesting. Yet I will argue my ways to his face. So he's still saying, I'm going to present my ways to God, whether it's arrogantly or not. I don't know. You never know how God said, or how Job said it. He could have said it arrogantly. He could have said it meekly. We can only read and assume. But I would encourage you all to read this. Job's final appeal, Job 31. I'll read this because it's important. I have made a covenant with my eyes. How then can I gaze at a virgin? What would be my portion from God above, and my heritage from the Almighty on high? Is not calamity for the unrighteous, and disaster for the workers of iniquity? Does not he see my ways and number all my steps? If I have walked in falsehood, and my foot has hastened to deceit, this is in parentheses, let me be weighed in a just balance, and let God know my integrity. And then this is out of it. If my step has turned aside from the way, and my heart has gone after my eyes, if any spot has stuck to my hands, then let me sow and another eat, and let what grows for me be rooted out. If my heart has been enticed towards a woman, and I have lain in wait at my neighbor's door, then let my wife grind for another, and let others bow down on her. For that would be a heinous crime. That would be an iniquity to be punished by the judges. For that would be a fire that consumes as far as Abaddon, and would burn to the root all my increase. He's basically saying, like, I have not done all these things. And when he's asking these things, he's also saying in that same sentence, I have not done all these things. Have I done this? Have I done this? The answer is no, 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 no. As far as we know. If I have rejected the cause of my maidservant or my manservant or maidservant when they brought a complaint against me, what then shall I do when God rises up? When he makes iniquity, when he makes inquiry, what shall I answer him? Did not he who made me in the womb make him? And did not one fashion us in the womb? If I have withheld anything that the poor desired, or have caused the eye of the widow to fail, or have eaten a morsel alone, and the fatherless has not eaten of it, this is in parentheses, for from my youth the fatherless grew up with me as with a father, and from my mother's womb I guided the widow. This is out of parentheses. If I have seen anyone perish for lack of clothing, or the needy without covering, if his body has not blessed me, and if he was not warmed with the fleece of my sheep, if I have raised my hand against the fatherless because I saw my help in the gate, then let my shoulder blade fall from my shoulder, and let my arm be broken from its socket. For I was in terror of calamity from God, and I could not have faced his. For I was in terror of calamity from God, and I could not have faced his majesty. So basically, Job's like, you go back to Job 31:4. Does not he see my ways and number all my steps? So this is kind of him making his final appeal. Is him saying, listen, have I not been faithful? Have I not been good? Have I not stood in righteousness for you, Lord, and stood in righteousness in God? Job 31:24 says, if I have made gold my trust, or called fine gold my confidence, if I have rejoiced because of my wealth was abundant, or because my hand had found much, if I had looked at the sun when it shone, or the moon moving in splendor, and my heart had been secretly enticed, and my mouth has kissed my hand, then also would be an iniquity. This also would be an iniquity to be punished by the judges, for I would have been false to God above. So that's kind of like idolatry in a sense, worshiping maybe sun and moon type stuff, placing the creation over the creator. If I had rejoiced at the ruin of him who hated me, or exalted when evil overtook him, I have not let my mouth sin by asking for his life with a curse. That was in parentheses. If the men of my tent have not said, who is there? If the men of my tent have not said, who is there that has not been filled with his meat? The sojourner has not lodged in the street. I have opened my doors to the traveler. If I have concealed my transgressions as others do, by hiding my iniquity in my heart, because I stood in great fear of the multitude, and the contempt of families terrified me, so that I kept silent and did not go out of doors. Oh, that I had one to hear me. Here is my signature. Let the Almighty answer me. Oh, that I had an indictment written by my adversary. Surely I would carry it on my shoulder. I would bind it on me as a crown. I would give him an account of all my steps. Like a prince, I would approach him. If my land has cried out against me, and its furrows have wept together, if I have eaten its yield without payment, and made its owners breathe their last, let thorns grow instead of wheat, and foul weeds instead of barley. So again, we have this, Job's basically justifying himself, which, I don't know how true all of this is. It doesn't, we can assume that Job probably didn't do these things, but humans have a tendency to over-justify themselves. But Job 32, in comes the man Elihu. Elihu is a young guy, and he comes in hot and ready, man. He's stinking, rebukes Job's three friends and rebukes Job. So I'm going to read this first part, and this is important right here because it kind of ties into all the stuff I skipped. Job 32, Elihu rebukes Job's three friends. So these three men ceased to answer Job because he was righteous in his own eyes. Then Elihu the son of Barachel the Buzite of the family of Ram burned with anger. He burned with anger at Job because he justified himself rather than God. He burned with anger also at Job's three friends because they had found no answer, although they had declared Job to be in the wrong. Now Elihu, so that right there you can see what these past however many verses or chapters have been about. Now Elihu had waited to speak to Job because they were older than he. And when Elihu saw that there was no answer in the mouth of these three men, he burned with anger. And Elihu, the son of Barachel, the Buzite, answered and said, I am young in years and you are aged. Therefore I was timid and afraid to declare my opinion to you. So he goes on to, in 33, Elihu rebukes Job. He then goes on, Elihu asserts God's justice. He basically gives God glory and makes, kind of sets things straight. Elihu condemns Job. Elihu extols God's greatness. Elihu proclaims God's majesty. In all of these, he's kind of questioning. So like in this one, Elihu proclaims God's majesty. In Job 37:18, it says, Can you like him spread out the skies, hard as a cast metal mirror? Teach us what we shall say to him. We cannot draw up our case because of darkness. Shall it be told him that I would speak? Did a man ever wish that he would be swallowed up? So you can see, like, he's rebuking, he's saying, speaking truth, he's rebuking. It's pretty simple. Then I think this is honestly probably one of the scariest, most sobering chapters in the Bible. It's something that is very it's just something we all need to hear. I know I need to hear it. Job 38 is titled, The Lord Answers Job. Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind. Remember, this really happened. This is not a fake story. The Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, Who is this that darkens counsel by words without knowledge? Dress for action like a man. I will question you, and you make it known to me. If the God of the universe asks you that, I don't know how you react. I would be like, oh, I was wrong. Like, oh man, that would be scary. Oh man alive. That would be very, very, very scary. So here we go. This whole thing is basically God. This is very important. I'm going to read it and I'm going to talk about it. Where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? Tell me if you have understanding. Who determined its measurements? Surely you know. Or who stretched the line upon it? On what were its bases sunk? Or who laid its cornerstone? When the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy. Or who shut in the sea with doors when it burst out from the womb? When I made the clouds its garment and thick darkness its swaddling band, and prescribed limits for it, and set bars and doors, and said, Thus far shall you come, and no further, and here shall your proud waves be stayed. When have you commanded the morning since have you commanded the morning since your days began, and caused the dawn to know its place, that it might take hold of the skirts of the earth, and the wicked be shaken out of it? It is changed like clay under the seal, and its features stand out like a garment. For from the wicked their light is withheld, and their uplifted arm is broken. Have you entered the springs of the sea, or walked in the recesses of the deep? Have the gates of death been revealed to you? Or have you seen the gates of deep darkness? Have you comprehended the expanse of the earth? Declare if you know all this. Where is the way to the dwelling of the light, and where is the place of darkness, that you may take it to its territory, and that you may discern the paths to its home? You know, for you were born then, and the number of your days is great. Have you entered the storehouse of snow, or have you seen the storehouses of the hail, which I have reserved for the time of trouble, for the day of battle and war? What is the way to the place where the light is distributed, or where the east wind is scattered upon the earth? So you can see here, God is, he's kind of going hardcore. He's like, I mean, think about what he's asking a man. I don't even know how to react to it. I would be like, no. I couldn't even say anything. You really couldn't. Like, I'm gonna read more and then I'm gonna stop and talk about it because I want to read through it. Who has cleft a channel for the torrents of rain, and a way for the thunderbolt, to bring rain on a land where no man is, on the desert in which there is no man, to satisfy the waste and desolate land, and to make the ground sprout with grass, Has the rain a father, or who has begotten the drops of dew? From whose womb did the ice come forth, and who has given birth to the frost of heaven? The waters become hard like stone, and the face of the deep is frozen. Can you bind the chains of Pleiades, or loose the cords of Orion? Can you lead the Mazzaroth in their season, and can you guide the bear with its children? Do you know the ordinances of the heavens? Can you establish their rule on the earth? Can you lift up your voice to the clouds, that a flood of waters may cover you? Can you send forth lightnings, that they may go and say to you, here we are? Who has put wisdom in the inward parts, or given understanding to the mind? Who can number the clouds by wisdom, or who can tilt the waterskins of the heavens? When the dust runs into a mass and the clods stick fast together, can you hunt the prey for the lion, or satisfy the appetite of the young lions when they crouch in their dens or lie in wait in their thicket? Who provides for the raven its prey when its young one cries to God for help and wanders about for lack of food? I mean, it goes on and on. Do you know, this is Job 39, do you know when the mountain goat gives birth, the Lord goes through a ton of stuff. Can you bind him in the furrow with ropes, or will he harrow the valleys after you? He's talking about the ox there, the wild ox. Just the Lord really goes in. I mean, the Lord really goes in. He's just not messing around at this point. And there's a reason to all of this. Job 40 says this, and the Lord said to Job, shall a fault finder contend with the Almighty? He who argues with God, let him answer it. I think oftentimes we talk smack to God and we don't get an answer because God's very merciful. In Job's case, God definitely answered Job. And I can't imagine how Job felt hearing this. Here you are, you've had everything stripped from you, you're accusing God basically and claiming yourself righteous. And then God shows up, the guy that you were talking smack about and questioning. I don't know if Job was necessarily talking smack, I shouldn't say that, but Job was definitely questioning God heavily, and God shows up and you're like, oh, I'm getting my answer. So Job promises silence. Then Job answered the Lord and said, behold, I am of small account. What shall I answer you? I lay my hand on my mouth. I've spoken once and I will not answer, twice, but I will proceed no further. The Lord challenges Job, so God does it again. Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, dress for action like a man. I will question you, and you make it known to me. So this is very, I don't even know how to describe this. It's like, imagine the God of the universe saying to Tyler, saying to me, saying to you, whoever you are, dress for action. So you've been complaining, in a sense, and been questioning, and you've been dogging the Lord, in a sense. And God says, dress for action like a man. I will question you, and you make it known to me. I'm like, hey, listen. I laugh about it, but it would more be like, will you even put me in the wrong? Will you condemn me that you may be right? So God's saying, are you going to condemn what is right to be right? I am the definition of right. I am right. Right is me. So you're going to condemn righteousness, me. I am the essence of being right and righteousness. There's no fault in God. So that you can be right? It's like, what? Makes no sense. It doesn't make sense. God's like, oh, really? Have you an arm like God? And can you thunder with a voice like his? Oh man, it's, can you draw out the Leviathan with a fish hook? I mean, this stuff is all like the Leviathan is basically described as like a dinosaur dragon creature. Like it's a real, I'm sure they were real. I have no reason not to believe it, but God basically says, like, literally it says in 41, will you play with him as with a bird, or will you put him on a leash for your girls? Will traders bargain over him? Like, God's basically saying, I control it all, buddy. Listen, Job, my son. I control everything. It's a little dark. So you can see, like, oh wait, that's the wrong way. You can see that God's kind of, I mean, he's really laying it on Job. He's laying it, which rightfully so. I mean, God, I am very thankful that God does not lay it on me like he laid it on Job. 42, Job confesses repentance. Then Job answered the Lord and said, I know that you can do all things, and that no purpose of yours can be thwarted. Who is it that hides counsel without knowledge? Therefore I've uttered what I did not understand, things too wonderful for me, which I did not know. Hear and I will speak. I will question you, and you make it known to me. I heard you by the hearing of the ear, but now my eye sees you. Therefore I despise myself, and repent in dust and ashes. So Job basically says, you know what? You were right. I want to go back here real quick. Yeah, God basically just says, like, I'm it. I'm the head honcho. I'm chief. I know what I'm doing. Job 42:7 says this. The title is The Lord Rebukes Job's Three Friends. Or The Lord Rebukes Job's Friends. After the Lord had spoken these words to Job, the Lord said to Eliphaz the Temanite, my anger burns against you and against your two friends, for you have not spoken of me what is right, as my servant Job has. Now therefore take 7 bulls and 7 rams and go to my servant Job, and offer up a burnt offering for yourselves. And my servant Job shall pray for you, and I will accept his prayer and not deal with you according to your folly. Which is, imagine being Eliphaz. You hear that and you're like, oh no, like, that would be so scary to hear that. Like, God comes to you and is like, I'm burning with anger towards you. Oh, no, sir. No, I don't want to ever hear those words. Oh, whoa, dude. Oh, man, my anger burns against you and against your two friends, for you have not spoken of me what is right, as my servant Job has. Woo, sheesh. That's pretty hardcore. For you have not spoken to me what is right, says it again, as my servant Job has. So he said that twice. So Eliphaz the Temanite and Bildad the Shuhite and Zophar the Naamathite went and did as the Lord had told them. And the Lord accepted Job's prayer. I bet you that was very... You know what I do find interesting in this, actually, is Job's mercy and grace towards his friends. I think that's something that we need to remember. Job accepted his friend's offering. What's kind of scary is Job could have... I guess Job could have technically rejected them, and God would have, I guess, burned them up. I don't know. But that didn't happen. Instead, Job led with mercy and grace, as we should. Remember that, y'all. Remember that. This right here. Listen to this. Y'all listen. The Lord restores Job's fortunes. And the Lord restored the fortunes of Job when he had prayed to his friends, and the Lord gave Job twice as much as he had had before. Then came to him all his brothers and sisters, and all who had known him before, and ate bread with him in his house. And they showed him sympathy and comforted him for all the evil that the Lord had brought upon him. And each of them gave him a piece of money and a ring of gold. And the Lord blessed the latter days of Job more than his beginning. And he had 14,000 sheep, 6,000 camels, 1,000 yoke of oxen, and 1,000 female donkeys. And he also had 7 sons and 3 daughters. And he called the name of the first daughter Jemimah. I think that's right. And the name of the second Keziah, and the name of the third Karen Hapuk. Sorry. And in all the land there were no women so beautiful as Job's daughters. And their father gave them an inheritance among their brothers. And after this Job lived 140 years, and saw his sons and his sons' sons 4 generations. And Job died an old man full of days. Jesus Lord God is faithful. Like, how? I want you to remember something, and I am having to remind myself of this. Life is hard, but every trial has a purpose. Job he was not privy to hearing the conversation between Satan and God. I also find it interesting how Satan wasn't mentioned anymore, because Satan was wrong, and God is just and right. All of this is because God. Job's steadfastness, Job not having a heart attack, Job trusting in God and not giving up. Job did not give up, and that is from Jesus. And I want to remind you that whatever you got going on, and whether it be spiritually or physically, either of them matter. Spiritually, Satan's been attacking me heavily. Spiritually, the enemy, and I think that is with everyone. I think we all have areas in our life that just Satan is attacking. I mean, it's the way it goes. Satan's no joke. He really isn't a joke. And he's caused a great deal of harm to us and to Jesus. Obviously, God, thankfully, has paid for our sins on the cross. But do not take lightly sin, and do not take lightly Satan. God obviously didn't take lightly Satan. He defeated him. But I want you to remember, and the reason I wanted to talk about the story of Job is, and it's my favorite story in the Bible besides the story of Jesus, because it really reminds me of Jesus, is that when everything is stripped from you, everything was stripped from Jesus, and he was hung on a cross, and he still trusted God. In the same way, everything was stripped from Job. Job lost everything, and it was restored to him, and God was faithful, and God had a plan, just the same as he had a plan with Jesus. And I'm not going to get into the Trinity or trying to explain any of that, but I want you to remember that whatever you're going through, there are forces at work that are greater than us that we don't understand. And I think it's really important to remember and to dwell on the fact that, what did God say to Job? He basically proclaimed how great he was. Like, we have no clue how, people do say that the earth has autonomy to some point, but at the same time, I think that God controls it all. I think he has a part in it. I think God is fiery and righteous. I think he, as he says, he asked Job if he had control over every single morning since the world began. Basically, like God has ordained the sun to rise and set every single day. God knows where the storehouse of the snow is. It's his store. He doesn't even know where it is. It's his storehouse. He knows, it's his. The hail storehouse is his. He's 70 miles out in the woods with the baby deer when it gives birth. He is. He knows it. It's really real. It's not a joke. And all of this being said, the whole reason he said all these things to Job is to remind Job that I know what I'm doing. I'm not an amateur. I'm not loose. I have a tight rein on things. God has a tight rein. It's not like things get away from God where he's like, oh, I didn't see that happen. Oh no. There's no oh no in God's mouth. That does not come from God's mouth. That has never proceeded from his mouth. Oh no. More like great, or more like great. I knew that. God knew that was going to happen. Whatever, everything. He knows everything's going to happen. But I want to leave you with this. I'm going to end this video here. I'm going to talk a little bit more, but I'm going to end it here. I want to end it on the note of this: that whatever trial and tribulation you're going through, and a lot of times, more often than not, it is physical. Take heart in knowing that the Lord knows what's going on. It could be cancer. It could be some awful disease. Job was covered in boils from his head to his toes. That's pretty... It's pretty gnarly. And of course it's easier to say it not being in the position. But I would remind you that you have the Bible for a reason, and these stories are in there for a reason, that if you have these physical ailments, remember that somehow God is working it out for the good of his glory and for your good. I I'm going to beg to say that the trial that Job went through probably made his relationship with Jesus, with God, it probably made it very strong. He was probably a lot more righteous than he was even before. Like, think of trials and tribulations, and this ties back to what I was saying at the very beginning. I believe I was saying this, or maybe it was in the video I didn't upload, but you older people know how trials and tribulations are a blessing. It's very interesting. I am learning that. They're very much so not fun, but without them, you don't mature in a sense. Which trials and tribulations are very scary, and I actually do think there is a form of life that you can go through where you don't necessarily need the trials and tribulations, but no one in this life has not gone through some trial or tribulation. I should obviously say that as well. I don't think any of us are going through Job's trials and tribulations, but as a word of encouragement to you, I would remember that you can look at this and you can read this and you can, in a sense, you have an answer. Maybe you're asking God why, what is going on. You have an answer. God answered it, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the same way of dress like a man, dress for action like a man. I'm going to ask you, you make it known to me, you know what I mean? God could just, it could be a lot softer than that. Like, well, hey, just trust me. I know what I'm doing. I think it is kind of to the extent of what we need to hear. Obviously, Job apparently needed to hear that God literally was like the stinking creator of the universe, whereas some people may just need to hear the simple words of trust me, a reminder. Just remember that God is faithful, and remember not to give up. It's very important that you don't give up. We don't give up, because not only do we have a great crown of glory awaiting for us in heaven, but those seasons of life, like seasons maybe like I'm going through with struggling with just a battle, somehow, and we don't get to know how, more often than not, we really don't get to know how. More often than not, well, I don't know where I was going with that. Every single time, I should say, somehow they work for the glory of God. And I would encourage you just to remember that God knows what he's doing. We don't really get to know. We just don't. Sometimes God answers people. But take the story of Job. If you take some things from it, what I take from the book of Job and Job's life, I cannot wait to see Job in heaven. That's going to be very interesting to have a talk with Job. But if you take some things from it, number one would be to remember that God is just and sovereign and that he knows what he's doing. I wish I could say it more like, I really try to drive that home. Like, God knows what he's doing. Like, he knows what he's doing. Like, I need to say it more? I feel like. And if you ever question if God, does God actually know what he's doing? I would encourage you to go outside and look around and look at nature specifically. Not all the chaos, but I don't know how trees work. Explain to me how a little seed turns into something that's 150 feet tall. God knows. He does it. He it's not like he knows. He's actively in it. He helps the seed grow. Think about that. God is way out in the woods helping seeds grow. He's helping deer give birth. He's helping deer grow. He's providing for ravens. God knows what he's doing. Also, remember not to give up, to trust God. Trust him. Trust him. Satan's going to come and he's going to attack you. Physical ailments usually always lead to spiritual battle. Satan's going to question like he did Adam and Eve. Did God really say? Is he really going to help you? Is God even really there? You kind of have to get into this state of no matter what, it's just okay, I'm not listening to that. It doesn't matter that God's not speaking to me right now. He's obviously working in the background. Remember that the Lord's always working. That's something has helped me, is God's always working. He's always doing something. It's not like he's not doing anything. He's always working. The Lord's always doing something. And lastly would be to remember, that if you're maybe a friend of someone who's struggling, don't be his 3 friends. You know, Job was able to say that he was upright and this righteous man and all this stuff. But if you have friends that maybe have led a very sinful life, but they're forgiven and new, remind them of that. You know, maybe they're questioning themselves like, I deserve all this. It's like, well, now wait a minute. When you say you deserve all of this, you're negating the belief in which you believe, which is that your sins are forgiven. Sure, we all deserve to go to hell and to be judged for our sin. God did not want this earth to be the way it is. We chose this. It's our fault that there's evil. But as sons and daughters of God, we're forgiven. Jesus has alleviated those things. He's carried them as far as the east is from the west, and they are remembered no more. So if someone in your life you know is just going through a hard time, encourage them, strengthen them, provide guidance, maybe have them read the story of Job. I think we all need to read the story of Job. I would encourage you to read it. Don't listen to me just babble on about it. Blah, 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 blah. Go read it. Go read it for yourself. So I care about you all. I hope that I was able to convey the message well of having hope and trusting in God and never giving up. Those are really the 3 key points of that. And that God loves you. The Lord, genuinely, God, He is active. He is active. And when you feel like questioning, I would encourage you to remember the words that I've said to you today. When Satan comes in and questions, stop and say, you know what? Wait a minute. I am being tempted to question God. And maybe you've given in to the temptation. You have to stop yourself and you have to say, wait a minute. If I believe in this God and I believe that He has really done all these things and that He is really as He says He is, which He is, God's no joke, as you read. He doesn't mess around. I need to not worry. What do I have to worry about? He created everything. And in the same sense, remember this. And this is actually more important than God creating the storehouses and all this stuff. God creating creation. God created you. God knows you. He knows you. And He loves you. And Jesus wants a relationship with you. And if you're a Christian, He wants a better relationship. Jesus wants a better relationship with me, and I am a man of God. I speak in truth and righteousness. And I say to myself, I need to make a better relationship with you. You can always, in this life, you will die, and your relationship will not be complete in terms of its progression with Jesus. Like, you always, in this life, we should always be striving in whatever we're doing to make our relationship with Jesus better. And how do you do that? First and foremost, honestly, is prayer. Just pray to God. You don't need to go to confession. There is no barrier between you and the Lord. Otherwise, it would be, God wouldn't be truly loving if there had to be some barrier. That means there would have to be a barrier of entry to get to God. There's no barrier. You can't have a barrier. That's not how it works. I'm sorry. That would make no sense. If you have a barrier to be able to speak to God, the whole Bible is pointless. Why didn't God have someone else speak to Job through the whirlwind? God Himself did it. He Himself showed up. God Himself provided. So just remember, I'm going to end this. I keep saying it, but I'm going to end it. Just a word. I just want this to kind of be a word of encouragement for y'all to never give up. And I have a challenge for y'all, if you would. My challenge for you, this is a genuine challenge, I want you to go do this, is I want you to set aside some time. I don't want you to bring your phone. I don't want you to bring any electronics. I want you to go spend some time with Jesus. I want you to go walk in nature, go for a hike, go for some time in the park. Maybe go sit on your porch and drink some coffee and just talk with the Lord. Talk about the hard things. Don't talk about surface level stuff. What kind of relationship do you have if it's surface level? You know what I'm saying? Go talk with God. Talk with Him about your struggles. He wants to hear. He wants to help. How could He not? You're His son. What father would want their child to conceal their questions from him? That would make no sense. And a father can't read their child's mind. God can. God knows everything about you. So don't have a filter with the Lord. Just present it. Present yourself. Be honest. Genuine. Be genuine. Genuineness leads to genuineness. So I care about y'all. Thank you for watching. If y'all want to, I really enjoy reading your comments, and I'm very thankful to y'all that you watch these videos. If you stuck around this long, thank you very much. You all know the ways you can support, you can subscribe, you can hype the video. There's links down in the descriptions again, but I I would encourage you all to just set aside some time for Christ. Make it a daily habit. I am trying to make it a daily habit to actually set aside time for Jesus. But other than that, I can't really think about anything else to say. So let this word encourage you. Don't let it beat you down. If you are Job and you feel like maybe God is speaking to you through this video, just do what Job did. Just, I'm sorry, Lord. You go talk with the Lord and he'll give you the words to say. He always gives you the things to say. So thank you all for watching. I hope you have a blessed rest of your day. And you all are a huge blessing to me. I'll catch you in the next one. May the Lord Jesus bless you.